Hi everyone, am I audible? Just raise a thumbs up if I'm audible. So how's the Josh, everyone? Write in the chat box. Write in the chat box. How's the Josh? So very good evening, everyone. I hope you're doing well. If you're doing well, please raise a thumbs up and I emoji in the chat box. Okay, so very good evening to all of you and very good evening to Mahima.
Good evening.
So basically, I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Shrishti Maheshwari and I'm your host for today's session. So I'm a program management at Pregrad. So basically, Pregrad is an ad tech platform which, along with the career assist cell, where their main motive is to upskilling student with a high-paying skill and a starting their career before graduation. So a very warm welcome to Mahima Soni, who brings more than 3 years of experience in IT industry, who is currently working at Acolyte as a senior software engineer and who has previously worked as a programming analyst at Cognizant. So Mahima will be leading today's class. So everyone, please follow her instruction closely as she guide you a step by step. If you encounter any issues related to code or anything, please feel free to raise your query in the chat box. Everyone, please raise a query in a chat box if you want to ask anything or any query. Everyone, please raise a thumbs up. May I know how many of you are a first year student? First year student, raise a thumbs up. Second year student, raise eye emoji. Eye emoji. Second year student. Okay, no participants from second year student. Third year students. Okay, Sahil and Bhavani. He's a third year student. So how many of you are using Grammarly clone? May I know how many of you are using Grammarly? Audience, जोश कहाँ है सबका? How many of you are using Grammarly? Please write in a chat box. Okay, Bhavani, don't use it much, ma'am. Not regularly. Okay. So, like, do you know what features Grammarly provide? Any idea what Grammarly feature provide? Like, what are the features you mostly use in your daily life? Write in a chat box. Yes, Devansh. Grammarly correction for email, checking grammars. So, what may I ask you? Like, which feature do you like the most? Which feature do you like the most? Devansh, Ram Pratap, which feature do you like the most? Kunal, Rakesh, Hannah, Abhishek. Yes, especially grammar spell correction. Yes, yes, yes. So, are you excited to make a Grammarly clone? Okay. So, Maima, welcome to Pregrad. And
Thank you.
so, may I know, like, how did you begin your journey in programming? Could you share your little bit journey or you introduce yourself? How did you land your job?
Yeah, sure. So, hi guys, I'm Mahima Soni, and as Shrishti mentioned earlier, that I have like almost 3+ years of experience in IT. So, my journey did not really start with computer science background. So, I have triple E background, and that is electrical and electronics engineering. So when I was in college, I was a part of like cultural team, and I used to I helped in my college to build a particular website, and they wanted volunteers for that, and I was not sure if I wanted to do or not. But then I was like, let's try something, because this is absolutely out of my subjects line. If you see, I'm from triple E, right? So that is when I first had a hand-on experience using the how to build websites, or the nitty-gritties of how to build it, and that raised a peak interest in me. So after that, when during second year college break, like we used to have a long 2 months old college break, and that is when I really joined one of the firms as an intern, where I was learning as well as implementing what I was learning. And that interested that generated interest in websites building and web development particularly a lot. And that is how I switched my domain from a field job that is proper code development to the software development. And I think I got placed in Cognizant from my it was like a campus placement, and that is how the journey began.
Okay, good to hear that, Mahima. May I know, let us know about what is the end goal we can achieve from the Grammarly clone?
See, if many of you might have used Grammarly, if not, you must have at least heard about it. If not, you can always go ahead and look at it. So, suppose you are, uh, in the corporate world, there is back and forth of emails and everything. And even when you are in college, you have to submit I think papers. You have to submit or research papers are there. So all those, for that, your grammar should be perfect. Your spelling mistakes shouldn't be there. And while typing, sorry, while typing, there is a probability that you might type in the wrong word, or and you don't want that to be submitted, because it will reflect on you eventually. The examiner or whoever is getting the mail will reflect its presence will reflect on you, right? So that is why we are Grammarly comes in picture, where before sending in anything, you can paste your content in the Grammarly website. They have free, you don't have to actually download it. If you want, you can you download the extension and use it. If not, you just want to check one paragraph or two, you can always paste it in their online Grammarly checker. So over there, what happens is that they are gonna either suggest you some, like as somebody mentioned in the chat, some better words for that. If it is there, they can help you with that. But that is but the most basic and the most priority functionality of it is that your grammar is correct. Maybe you're not using the correct way of the pronouns, or your articles are not correct, or you are using an article before the consonants, and likewise, right? And if your spelling is mistake, by a chance, you you know you are writing something, you are full-fledgedly writing, and you missed some spelling. So you can use Grammarly to check your mistakes before you send it out. So that is what we are going to build today as well. But yeah, of course, they have their huge the source tool which they have, the library which they have, it's tremendous. They have a variety of suggestions, and they keep building it, and they keep improving it on a daily basis. And to be very honest, we cannot have the access in the free version to all the whatever functionalities they provide. So I researched and found one of the basic live API, where we can have a basic grammar and spelling corrections. Because let's be honest, that's like in the free versions, they do not give out more than basic stuffs. Even they want you to buy their subscriptions or anything. But we are going to use a very basic and the free version of the API, which will give us the spelling mistakes. If we have, if the grammar mistake is there, we are going to get that, and we'll get a feel of making our very own Grammarly, and see how it works. And there are certain things which is not present in Grammarly. I have We are covering few different things as well. So we'll go ahead and see it.
Like, what are the technology we are using in this project?
So today we are gonna build in we are gonna use the tech stack that is gonna be used is purely HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. No other frameworks. These three basic simple frameworks we are gonna use, and we are gonna build our very own basic versions of Grammarly.
Cool.
So the level
Interesting.
is very beginners. I can just paste it on the chat, the tech stack, the IDE which we are using, and the level is beginners friendly. So if anybody who is the beginner here who has not really worked much on HTML, CSS, JavaScript, don't worry. It's a very big beginners level functionality.
Excited audience? Raise a thumbs up emoji if you're excited. So shall we start the
Yeah, sure. We can start. We can definitely start. I think I can share my screen. Let me know if you guys can see my screen. Can you guys see my screen? Okay,
yes,
great.
it is visible.
Okay, great. So first thing is I've already, of course, built the clone version, what we are going to build today. So I wanted to show you guys how it will at the end, very end, look like, and give you a feel about today's project. So let me go ahead and start and tell you, what's going to happen in this. Suppose I am typing something, say, hello, welcome to today's class. So I have written a sentence, I'm welcoming you all, and I want to check the text if it is all, perfect, or if it is some mistakes are there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check the text. So when I check the text, you see I have this underlined here, right? So the word is not correct. And it says that the suggestion is that it does not start with an uppercase letter, okay? And welcome to today's class. And then there says that apostrophe is missing. Yes. And as I mentioned, I'll be very honest and very clear about one thing. The version which we are using of the API is a very, very, very basic version because it's a free version. It wouldn't have all the functionalities, like all the suggestions or everything that a proper Grammarly code, like Grammarly your site will have, because it's a free version and they have a very basic API model, right? So you can see that they are mentioning the first thing is, of course, I wanted to say hello and not HERLLO, right? But over here, they are not really correcting the spelling. But what are they mentioning is, because it's a very, very basic version, they are saying that the first sentence which is there, it should start with an uppercase letter. So what are we going to do when I hover on it? You can see that the text underlined, that means that it has an issue. And when I hover on it, it will say what is the correction, plus it will also say you why there is a correction required in it, right? And now I want to correct this sentence, right? So I can click on this correct text, and what will happen is I will correct it. And once I click on it, what will happen is the corrected version, as they mentioned that hello was HERLLO with a capital H, and today's was apostrophe was missing. So now what is happening is, on clicking of that correct text, what happened is the correct text had come up. Now there is no underline and nothing is there, right? Now suppose I just want to check, and if I'm checking, now they will say there is some error, right? What is the error? So the first thing what they did was they checked for the uppercase, right? That was fine. Now since that is corrected, you can see that now they are saying that it's not did you mean actually hello, because they are saying that it's a possible spelling mistake found. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on correct text, and now it is all corrected, right? I'm going to do check text again. Now it does not have any correction, so it says no error in your sentence. Okay, correct. Now I have added two more buttons. I suppose if I want to copy the text which I have, the corrected form, I can click on that button and I can paste it. It will get pasted. And if I want to try out another sentence, it will, if I click on clear text, it will clear all the text which is was available. And there is also a limit count which we have, and that is 150. In today's class, I'm giving it as 150. You can have your own limits. That is up to you. So you can see that we have functionality of Grammarly, but we have also made it a little personalized according to our needs, right? So I have another tab open. So this is a basic, very basic, like this is nothing, right? This is just a URL is open. So from this we are going to become this, right? So I will, give me a second, I will just get my screen here. So we are going to code simultaneously and we're going to see what we are building, right? Can you guys see two screen or is it just one screen? Can you see the code, base code?
One screen is visible.
Okay, just give me a second. Just give me a second. I will share my screen again. Okay, I'm just gonna share my. Okay, just a second. Okay, what happens if I share my entire screen? Which screen is visible? My chat screen, right? If I get this here. Okay, wait a second.
Split the screen into two parts and then share the
Yeah,
entire
I have done that.
entire window. Entire window.
Yeah, I did that, but I think it's not taking. It's still asking me one screen itself. Just a second. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I think. Uh, can you guys see the entire? It's still showing just one screen. Just a second. Mhm. Give me a minute, guys. It's not taking entirely. Just a second. But if I move my code, it's not taking there.
Uh, just click on the entire screen, write the code, then minimize it, and then check.
Okay, you are saying that I should just share my entire screen.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I can share screen one screen too. Yeah, got it.
Bhavani, you can do a live coding, and after the class, a man will share you the source code. Don't worry.
Yeah, I think you guys can see both now. Can you guys see both screens now? Like there is a code base as well, and yeah, fine. I got
Yes,
a thumbs
Mahima,
up.
now it is visible.
Okay, great, perfect. Just a second. Okay. So right now I've just done very simple thing. That is, I've just created one folder with 3 files in it. That is the HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. HTML is plain text file which goes there. Style would be how do we want to make our URL, website look like. And the JS is the functionality that binds the HTML with all the functionalities that we want. Fine. So we will first start with the HTML very basic coding. So the first thing you can do is just give a exclamation mark and enter. You will have your basic HTML code ready here. So we just name the title, and title is something that you see here over here. So I'm just gonna make it Grammarly clone, right? And the body is what goes here. So what I'm gonna do is I am gonna make a div with a class called container. Oops. Okay. So we have a div and in with the class container. Inside that, we are gonna add all this. So you can see we have a heading or a title sort of a thing. So that has a a different styling. So what we are gonna do is, for that we are gonna use a tag called h2 tag, and inside that we are just gonna write that is gram mate. We have written the grammate, and now it's gonna time like this particular line which we're gonna use. And what does it say? I'll just copy this from here. I'm gonna copy this from here and I'm gonna type this. Okay, and if I save, do I see anything here? I think I have to refresh it. Yeah, I see grammate and I see here. Perfect. The next thing that comes is this particular box, the buttons, and this uh, sentence is written here, right? So what are we going to do is, inside, it's all inside the container. So after that, what we are going to do is we are going to make this div. And inside that, what we are going to do is, so we want this div to be editable, right? We want this to be editable. Okay, just a second. Yeah, we want this to be editable, right? So div are not editable. So how we can make that editable is, we're going to use this attribute called content table. What does it do is we are going to make it true. So what will this do is it will make it editable. The content that is present inside the div will be editable. And suppose I want to add some functionalities to the div. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an ID to it. Using the ID, I can, suppose we are going to make it editable editor. Using this ID, we can add functionalities to this particular div. So we have our div ready. Now we want the 3 buttons and we want this text, right? So what are we going to do is over here, what are we going to do is I'm going to make another div with the buttons. Right, so it's the 3 buttons. It's 3 buttons. So I'm going to first make a div for these 3 buttons. And inside that, I'm going to place each button inside it. Right, so I have a button. First, it should say check text. Right, and I can just duplicate it into 3. I will make it as copy text. And this is clear text. Right, we have our 3 buttons. Let's add ID to these 3 buttons, and we are gonna make it as a check button. Okay, and suppose we are just gonna copy paste here and here. All the 3 different buttons do different functionalities, so we need different IDs for it, right? And we have made a unique ID for all the 3 buttons. So we have our 3 buttons ready. Now after that, what we are gonna do is, let's see, we'll save this first. We'll see, do we have our buttons? We have our buttons. So the div, it's not seen yet because there's nothing inside it. We're gonna style it, don't worry, and we'll be able to see what is exactly like this here, right? So now we have the button, and now we are gonna do the word count part. So suppose we are gonna make it as, suppose we are save word counter, a div for this, right? So why we are gonna insert it into a div is because you see all these I want it to be relative to the the spacing between above this character should be equal to that. So instead of doing it individually and applying the CSS on both the labels, I will put this inside a div so that I can just give the styling to the div and it's applied to both, right? So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add, let's not add, just it's just a character. I can just say p tag, and I have total count, right? We don't want zero, right? We want, like, it should keep, okay, I'll come to that later. It should keep increasing and the remaining should decrease. So if I type anything, you see this is increasing and this is decreasing, right? So right now what we are going to do is we're just going to make it remaining. Okay, so you see that these numbers which is there, right, this and this increases and decreases based on whatever I'm typing here. That means we need an ID to it, right? And so how do I do this? I will add a span tag here so that I can, what I can do is I can add an ID to it. A functionality can be added to it. So I'm just gonna add that zero in between the span tag. So what happens now, this zero is inside an HTML tag. So I can provide an ID to it. And what will happen is it will, this particular number will increase and decrease. Why are we not adding the ID to the P? Because P represents the entire text that I've written, total character as well. You see, this is not, this text is not increasing or decreasing or changing. It is only that zero that is the value which is here increases or decreases. And that is, sorry, and that is why we are going to add a tag, HTML tag to that. And over here, suppose I am writing it as total counter. Oops, what happened? Yeah, total counter, right? And the same thing, what I can do is, suppose I just take here and I will write it as remaining counter. Remaining counter. And this, the first text is 150. So let's see if we have our, okay. So we can see our entire text is ready here, right? So our, this is our div, this is our text, the basic text which are there, and these are the three buttons, and this is the total character which is telling how many characters are remaining for you guys and how many characters you have actually utilized it, right? So this is in the HTML tag which you would HTML file, or the that you will require only this much. This much is what we have written, and this much is what we are gonna require. So now you can see that of course we don't want it like this, we want it like this, right? So we have another file, style.css, which where we are going to do the styling part. But for that styling and the HTML to connect, how would the your browser know that this HTML is connected to this style CSS? So what we are going to do is over here we are going to give a link tag. We have a link tag. What is this going to do is it's going to give us, like, I'm going to tell you what is the, like, where, oops, sorry. Yeah. So what is, like, what is it? What is the relevance of it? So it's a style sheet, right? So it's a style sheet, and the reference href, that is it should point to this style.css, right? So what are we going to do is we are going to do href. This will tell you where is it, where is the reference to it, and that is style.css, right? So we're just going to write style.css. Since it is, these are next to each other, I don't have to give any I don't have to give any address to it, or there is no the location is, it's right next to it. If it was in a folder, there might be a chance I have to give, like, if it's a previous folder, and then we have to give it like this, right? So we have a style.css. So this is what is going to do is it's going to link it. So now let's add our CSS. Let's style it like this before we add the functionality, what we're going to do. So over here, what we are going to do is, let's head over to the style part. And the first thing that we are going to do is, there are some fonts which, Google provides, and we can use them. So what, I just have copied it somewhere. So what we are going to do is, we are going to just paste it here. I can share it with you guys. So this is the URL, the font URL, and I'm just importing that in my style sheet so that I can use the fonts that are provided, and I can use them in my project. Okay. So the first, just a second. Yeah. So the first thing that we are going to do now is, what we are going to do is, as like the overall this which is there, the entire body, or the entire context which is there, we're just going to give a css to it. So
Ma'am, could you please share the font style sheet
yeah,
on
yeah,
chat?
I can do that. Just a second. Okay, I'll just copy the entire thing and paste it. Just a second. Where is the chat? It's here. Okay. Did you guys get it? Okay, perfect. I think I can see it in the chat. So I'm guessing everybody received that. So we have that, right? Let's come back to styling it. So for first thing, what we are gonna do is, what we are gonna do is we are just gonna give like basic. We don't want any margin. Like in the very beginning, the entire website that we have, right? So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna tell that, let's assume the margin to be. We don't want whatever is provided initially. So that is margin 0. We'll make it padding is also. Uh, 0, and then we are gonna, what are we gonna do? We are gonna make the box model, right? So box sizing is what we are gonna make it. I'll explain what border box and everything is there. Why are we doing this? Maybe at the end when we have questions and when everything is ready, I can explain you. And now comes font family, right? So how are we using this font family? It is because I'm importing. Yeah, so I can use the font family. You can use anything of your liking. I'm just using what I feel comfortable in general with. You can use any font you want. It's your project. You should be happy with what it looks like, right? So I'm just gonna make it, suppose, work sans comma sans serif. That is like a very basic. Everybody has it. Okay. So we are ready with our basic this. Now we are gonna style the body. What is the body? This particular part. This is there, right? We are going to add css to now this particular part, which is reflected here. So the first thing is we are going to give the css to body. And since it is an HTML tag, you don't have to give any dot or anything. You just name it however it is. That is body. So what I want is, I don't want it here. I want it in the very center, right? But I also want it very responsive. Like if I am, decreasing the size, it still remains in the center. If I am increasing the size, it still remains in the center, right? That's what I want to do. So that is why I'm not going to give very hard coding pixels, because as and when your screen of the size increases, the pixel values won't increase or decrease, right? Because you have hard coded that. And that is when it can distort your how your website looks like. So what we are going to use is, we are going to use something called flexbox. So what happens with flexbox is, I'm going to display it as flex. So flexbox will take care of your resizing, like what is your screen size and where should the body which you have given, or the container, or your elements which are there, where should it be placed. I will just give the flexbox and it will place it whatever the screen size is. I don't have to take care of it. Otherwise what happens is, if I'm not using flexbox, I have to mention it in my css file. Like if the screen width is supposed from this to this, minimum to maximum, please apply these particular styles. If it is from this width to that width, please apply these particular uh, these particular css. So what we're going to do is, we're just going to make it display flex. So display flex, now where do we want it? We want it at the center. We want it horizontally center and vertically center as well, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is justify content, and what it's going to do, and I'll make it as center. You have different values. Suppose if you see, it has space around, space between, space similarly. We'll use few of them further. You can see, but it's upon you where do you want to keep it. I want to keep it at center. So if I save it, let's see if it got, yeah, you can see it now came into center, right? So what happened is, horizontally, if you see from this horizontally, this line, it got centered. But I don't want it. I also want it vertically centered here, right? So for that, what I'm going to do, this is for, I'm going to write it, this is for This is for horizontal center. Okay, just a second. This is for horizontal center, right? Now what I want to do is I want to do a vertical center. Just a second. Okay, I want to do a vertical center. For that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use something called align items and just make it center. And now I'm going to save it. I'm going to refresh this. Okay, why it did not come into center, of course, right? So what is this? This is align items. So a flex box, you can have multiple items, right? So this is like just one item. So it is like there's one item. How will you, it is already in the center. Suppose there might have been two items. So this would have been center, and over here it would have been at the center. Now I want to align this particular thing which is already there, this particular block, right? I want to place this entire items. I've aligned it at center. Now these particular blocks which are there inside the flex box, I want to center those. So what I'm going to do is align self. This is going to get centered. Why is this not happening? Just a second. I have centered it, right? I have centered it. Okay, let's see. Why is this not happening? I will add, I can always inspect. Why is this happening? Okay, okay, of course. Sorry, my bad. It is like the body which is there, right? The width, the entire width and the height of the container is only that much, right? We have this particular entire part is useless right now. So the width and if you can see the height and the width of the body which is there, 482 into 137, we are using the entire of that. That is why it is not really sent. Put it at center right of the page right now. So we're gonna go ahead and do that eventually as soon as we'll go ahead, style all these alongside with that. Okay, so the first I can remove. Okay, if you guys want to open this developer tools where you can inspect your elements, what is happening, why is happening, and the sources is where you will find your JavaScript file, the network calls if you are doing any API calls. So for that you can what you can do is from here, more tools, you can go to developer tools or control plus shift plus I. That is how I opened it, just in case somebody did not know that. So now we are going to just uh, so right now the height, if you see, as we saw, right, it was like 482 into 137 something. So it is just taking this much. Now I want to make it the entire height of the screen which is available. One way we can do is we can give it a hard coded value, but as you increase and decrease the size, or your monitor screen increases or decreases, the pixel will be hard coded. It won't really decrease or increase. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it as, I'm going to give a height, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it 100 vh. So vh, what happens is it's like what is your what is the amount of screen visible to you. So I want it to be as like the 100% of whatever it is visible, right? So that is why now, since the height I have made it as entirely uh, I have made the height entirely as the whatever the visible screen is there, that much. So if you see, now you can see, right, what happened is the entire body, the entire 100 vh is like your entire vertical like the entire vertical height it is taking, entire vertical height, right, which is visible for you. So now what happens is, if you see, we applied flex, you can see flex here, and it says justify content center. So the item is horizontally centered, and with your also align self and align items, it is vertically centered as well, right? So let's just give it is there, right? So we have a background and everything, that is fine. So we have made it as center. Now coming to styling all these different parts which is there, so let's go ahead and do that. So you can see we'll just style these now. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to style this h2, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just say, because again it's an HTML tag, we don't just use the HTML tag name, and I want a color to it. You can give it in different ways. You can give the names provided, you can give the code which is provided here, or you can also use RGB, which is red, green, blue ka mixture, whatever color you give. I say 43 comma 45 and for sorry 45 and 46. Okay, so this comes up to a color somewhere here, like a blackish or a grayish, a blackish tone, but not exactly black, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that. See, the color changed, but it's on the left. I want it at the center. So what I'm going to give it as, it's a text. So I'm going to give it as text align. It is align as center, and I'm going to save it. It came in center. It's already centered. Now I'm increase the font size a little. So let's make it really huge. So I am going to give font size. Okay, I'm going to 48. Okay, I think I will just have the CSS ready. So I'm going to use it. And as you can see, we have font family ported here. I want to use different font. It is different from here, and this is different. If you want, you can use the same. If you don't want, you don't have to do it. And also I want to add some spacing to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the spacing. I'm going to add the spacing, and I'm going to use the different font family than this, right? So now what happened is, if I save it, you can see the letter spacing and font family got applied, right? So now let's go ahead and style this p tag. I'm gonna copy a few of CSS which I've already saved, because I want to get to the fun part, and that is the functionality wise. So with, but I'll explain all the CSS and styling, don't worry. I would just do that. So I want to make sure it has a maximum width. So we'll use a combination of both, flexbox and maximum width and minimum width, so that you guys know which all different kinds exist, and you guys can use whichever you want. I'm a huge fan of flexbox. So I'm over here. I'm going to give a maximum width as 760. This is according to my liking. You can give anything of your wish. It's absolutely it. There's no hard and forced rule that you have to use these itself. Again, for this as well, I want to text align it as center, and then it's, sorry, I have to shift this. I have added it text align as center. I'm going to give some margin over here, because they are very close to each other. So what I'm going to go and give is margin on the top and the bottom. So I know you guys, I'm sure if you guys would know the difference between padding and margin. If not, I'll tell. Padding, what happens is it gets included with the box, like with whatever the entire tag is there. But margin is this plus that, plus margin. So if I give margin, this particular thing will not get affected. So I am giving margin. Suppose I'll give margin top. I'll give margin top as, suppose, some 36 pixels. And I'm just gonna make it as bottom. And I'm just gonna give like a huge number, so that they're just separate to each other and you can see it. Yeah, I have like really separated it out, right? So these two are now a little separate with each other, right? So suppose this is done. Now we can we have our div. We will give CSS to that. So what is the ID, which is this, and how do we style IDs? And that is with a hash, and then followed by the ID name which is there, and I'm going to provide my CSS over here. So as you can see, I want the this particular thing to be in the same line and not on different lines. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to give a max width of the same width which is given here. So I'm going to do that. Height, I can, if you see, where is the height is very small, right? I'm going to give height. I am going to give height as, I will, wait a second. I will just copy this and I will place the CSS here, right? Okay, just a second. Okay, yeah, so I have given this. We can still not see why it is not, why is it not there. Let's add a background color to it. So what happens is, so that we can at least see where where that is with the background color. Let's see, we can see, can we see? We cannot see, because if you see the background over here is also like whitish, so we are really not able to see it. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead, and what I'm going to make is the border. I'll add the border to it. So let's see, can we see the border now? Can we see? I can see. Now do you see that the div, I've made it like the width, I've increased the width so that it matches with this, and then also the height I've given so that it's a huge box kind of a thing, right? And I've given a border so that we can see that there's something exists of this sort, right? We have this. Let's give some shadow to this box. Let's add some shadow to this box. Again, RGB, I have given the color codes slash the percentage. Percentage means opaque. So 20%, if I'm giving, that means 80% transparent. It should be 80% transparent, and it's 20% opaque, right? And if you see, I don't like, it's a sharp edge. I really don't like sharp edges. So let's make it a little roundish. So I'm going to give border radius for it. Sorry, I didn't save it. So you can see now from sharp edges, it became as it is become like a curvature, a radius is there, right? So this is done. So let's do this, and I'm typing on this. I don't like the text, ka font size and everything. So again, what I'm going to do is the font for the content which is inside the div, I'm going to increase the font. I'm going to give some letter spacing. What does letter spacing do? That space between each letter, you can see F and S ke beech mein there are very little space. I'm going to increase that a little, and also I'm going to give word spacing so that the space between one word and the second word, they have a, it's like a thoda space hai, so that you can see it, right? So these three which I mentioned, I'm going to add it here. I'm going to add it. I have added it. Yeah. So you can see font size increased, space between the different letters increased, space between different words also increased. Let's suppose I want to give like the line height so that the height of this particular line is a little more. So it's, again, it is entirely on you how you want to make your CSS look like. This is how I feel like making my CSS look like, and that's what I'm going to do. So now if you see, this is out of focus, and when I click on this, it becomes in focus, right? I don't really like this outline, and let's reduce the border ka thickness, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the same ID, but this time where do I want to change it? I want to change it when I'm focusing on it, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make it as focus. So what is this? The whatever CSS I'm going to apply here, वो यही ID पे apply होना चाहिए, but when it's on focus. So this is your div, this is ID with editable editor, and when it's on focus, whatever is there inside this CSS, that should be applied. So I want to reduce the border, and I want to remove the outline. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the border. You can see it is 0.5. जब whenever you click on the focus, border ka ye should be a little less, right? And outline I don't want. So this, if you see ye jo black total fat black which is there, that is your outline. So I'm gonna click on this. Now if you see, I have reduced, I've removed the outline. Outline is none, and I've reduced the border ka size, like the thickness and everything, right? So it's this, and you can see I applied box shadow, so you can see a thoda bahut of box shadow is right there. Okay, we'll do some other things as well here, but we'll come back here, and then we're gonna see that. Now let's move ahead to the buttons, right? So what are we gonna do in the buttons is there is a div for the buttons. Yeah, and then it is wrapped, the three buttons are wrapped inside a div. So I'm going to style the div first. It's a div, so it starts, the styling starts with a dot, and I'm going to give the here. So what I want is, again, these are the three buttons. What I'm going to give is, display flex, but I want space between them, right? Even space between them. So instead you can give margin, padding, anything you want, but instead of doing that, I will utilize flexbox so that I don't have to care about the responsiveness of it, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and give it as display flex, display flex, right? And then again, last time when we used justify content, right, over here on the top we did center. That means it came in the center. Let's try center here first. Suppose I give center. What happens? All the three comes in center. I don't like it. I want space in between them. You can use space around. Space around, what happens? कि हर button के around there are equal space. You can give space between. Space between means it is the space is between the three buttons, right? It is not like is button ke over there is no button here, right? So that is why there is no space here, but the space is here. And space evenly, if you say space evenly would be the space between this button, मतलब सारे button के left right में equal spacing है, right? So we are gonna do that. That is there. Let's okay, we are going to do that later. Okay, now so what we are going to do is, now we have these buttons, right? We are going to style these buttons, and I am going to use the same styling for the three buttons. You can use different styling if you want. So for this, what I want is, since all the three buttons needs the same styling, I can just use the tag instead of using the ID, because this ID would be specific to this, the next would be specific to this, and the next would be specific to this. So what I'm going to do, go ahead and just style the button. So this button is going to apply it for all the three at once. So what I'm going to do is, you can see I have used a different background. I have used a different background color. I have a different, like it's a white text, white colored text. And then there is text size a little थोड़ा ज़्यादा है, and then you can see from this button and this button there is a radius on it. There is no sharp edges over there. So for radius, for any radius, you use it border radius. So I'm just, and you see the pointer यहाँ पे different है, but as soon as I hover on that particular button, the pointer changes. So all these things that and there is no really, not really a border, right? कोई border color नहीं है. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm going to apply all these CSS that I just explained it to you, right? And I want it to be applied to all the three buttons. So that's what I'm going to do. And I've applied it, right? So what I'm doing is, button pe background color hai, whatever this is mentioned, whatever the RGB I've mentioned, color of this RGB, that is red, green, blue, I want it as same, that is it would turn out as white. You can also just write white or the hexacode, that is hash FFF. And then there is no radius. I don't want any, so sorry, there is a radius, that is it's a little curved, so I've given 6 pixel. I've given a little padding. You can see text and border ke beech mein thoda bhi jagah nahi hai, so I'm going to give those padding over there. I don't want any border, so I made the border as none. Font size is 18 pixel. I want it a little big and not this small, so I've made that. And cursor yahan pe different hai. This is default cursor which you can see right now, and this is the pointer cursor. So I'm going to save this. So now you can see I have my three buttons here ready, right? I have these three buttons ready, and I've now what I'm going to do is go ahead and abhi dekhoge, if I'm hovering, you can't really make out anything is happening because we have not really done anything, right? But if you come here, when I hover, the color changes. Even when I suppose click on it, and click मतलब ये focused हो गया, and that is also, if you see यहाँ पे also your you know like your text is different, right? So what I'm gonna like your the background color is different. So now what I'm gonna do, apply is that. So this is your button, sorry, this is your button. हम लोग आगे भी we learned here also when it is focus. So I'm gonna use it as focus when it is focused. So I want to apply the same thing when it is focused and when it is hover. If you see, both have the same CSS, right? It's not really different. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to do comma. Comma separated means apply the same CSS to both the functionalities or both the tags. So this is there, and then the next would be button and hovering. We have two functionalities that we are taking point of, focus and hovering. So we want to change the if you see, I'm changing the background a bit of border box, like the box ka jo shadow hai, a bit of that. So what I'm going to do is this. If you don't want the box shadow, you can just remove it. I just added for extra CSS, right? So what's going to happen is, now if I hover on it, you can see the box shadow is very mildly visible. very mildly because I've not really given a bit of, like, if you see top or ये bottom के इधर में ही है, it is not really on the sides. And if you and even the percentage is like, as I mentioned, transparency is बहुत कम, right? But if I hover, the background color of course changes from this to this, right? Hover हो रहा है, or even if I click on it, when it's focused, then also it is changing, right? uh, but I had like one functionality, and that is in the very beginning when I do not have anything written on it, right? कोई text नहीं है, so there's no sense having these buttons really enabled, right? Because there's no functionality. क्या check करूँ, क्या text करूँ, copy करूँ, and what should I clear? Nothing. I don't have anything really. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna make it disable, right? So I'm gonna add the CSS now, but the functionality is not implemented, so you won't really be able to see it. So same, like इसमें focus is there. I wanted to apply it to the button. Same button is there now, but when should the CSS be applied? When it is disabled. So you can see that there are so many drop downs here, right? I want disabled, so I can see the disabled here. This CSS should be applied when it is disabled, right? So what I'm gonna do is, so opacity, that means uska if you can see, if you see this, iska jo opaqueness hai and the transparency of this are different, right? So I've reduced it from 1, I've reduced it to half, and the cursor that I'm making is not allowed, so that the user know that you can't, it is not allowed, clicking is not allowed. Of course you can still click it because the para functionality is not applied yet, but this is just the look wise. CSS, how I'm going to block clicking on it so that the user knows you don't click it, please. But even still, if the user clicks it, I want to make sure that nothing happens really. So that we're going to implement in the JS part. Okay, so this is there now. This particular part is left. So again, what is there? What do we have is we have a container, and inside that we have the p tags, right? So I am gonna take this class, and I am gonna, oops. Okay, so it is there again. मेरे को इसको क्या करना है? I want it, I don't want to take care of the width and like the responsiveness, everything. I am going to make it as display flex. Display is your flex. And now if you can see over here, we used evenly. Right now we used space evenly. Now over here, we want it at the very end. So all the space that is there, it should be in between the two tags which is there, right? So how it is distributed, this is your div. Okay, so I am giving display flex. So whatever the width and whatever it is there, right, spacing is there, it will be distributed in between the child tags which are there. So suppose if I have like 3 to 4 tags here, it will, if I say display, the space, what justify content, whatever I give, it will tell between those tags distributed, right? The spacing distributed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give justify content, and I'm going to give this because happens if 2 tags are there and I want all the space in between the 2 tags, as this name suggests, I'm going to give the CSS as space between, right? And I'm going to save it. Let's see if it gets applied. It gets applied, right?